What up? A trade deadline special edition reaction podcast. We got Rico, we got Rick Blaze coming to you. We are breaking down who made the most surprising move, the best move, and who positioned themselves best for the SWBA draft and who they could get coming out of college basketball right now. All right, I am joined. I'm stoked for this. We got the three-headed monster here to talk all things SWBA trade deadline. It is recording this at 6:45 Eastern, so the trade deadline is officially official. Everything has been done. Luka long gone to the Mavs. The Warriors get Jimmy Butler. Kevin Durant is mercifully still in Phoenix, and I got Rick. I got Rico. We are going through just instant reactions to it, fellas. This might be one of the most insane trade deadlines, and all of it comes on the heels of people saying, well, we might not get anything, right? We might not have any deals because of all of these big deals, these big contracts that people signed. Rick, I'll start with you. The Lakers are excluded from this conversation because that is the most shocking trade in league history. What was the deal that to you surprised you the most?
You know, I think it's a deal that I don't want to talk. I'm going to not mention the Warriors because I can easily go Jimmy Butler. I think I'm gonna leave that to you guys because I'm sure you guys are going to have plenty of Warriors Jimmy Butler talk. So I'm not going to go there. I think the trade that shocked me the most that is the trade that didn't happen, and that's Kevin Durant staying with Phoenix. It got to a point where I thought there was a chance KD was going to leave. Now I didn't think he was going to Golden State because of what happened last time. But I thought there was a really good shot of some teams jockeying for position, maybe getting KD real late in the game. Because now if you're Phoenix, what are you doing right now, right? Your current makeup hasn't worked by keeping Durant, by keeping Booker, by not being able to get my man from Miami, Jimmy.
Jimbo, yeah.
What are we doing? Are we saying the status quo is good? Are we trying to build this thing up? Are we breaking it down? What are we doing? I think if you're Phoenix, you kind of stayed in limbo with this situation where you could have made a decision one way or the other, and so now you're still the middle of the road Suns, the underachieving Suns.
Rico, it feels like Phoenix, and I mean take it in any direction you want, but it feels like Phoenix is an implosion waiting to happen. And there is no way this train does not crash and burn at the end of it with the fact that they're bringing everybody back. They clearly have no way to get rid of Bradley Beal. Kevin Durant just got his name shopped around and probably isn't too happy with it with 1 year left. And Devin Booker is giving props to the Portland Trailblazers organization on the road and not his own.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks like that there is something brewing with this Phoenix Suns team because I think that they are trying to get ahead of this thing, and I think that they knew that they were kind of in a corner when they were looking at this Bradley Beal situation, and they were figuring out, like, man, in order for us to make a move, this player holds all the cards, right? And we have a lot of money tied into a top-heavy team that, oh, by the way, they are injury prone, all right? So they are in some trouble here. And so, look, I'm not sure what they're going to do, but by shopping Kevin Durant, now you're telling me that you're trying to make a decision maybe by the offseason. Maybe he's going to be one of those major offseason moves. Maybe Phoenix tries to get ahead of this and just get off of Kevin Durant.
I mean, Why would you hold, and at this point, why would you hold on to anybody? I mean, your picks are terrible. To me, get rid of Kevin Durant. Why not send him to Houston and try to get something out of them? Hey, Jalen Green, you guys love Amen Thompson. You love Alperen Sengun. Well, what if we took like Tari Eason, Jalen Green, and some of those picks you got, and we replace Kevin Durant with something, and then we turn around and we say, well, what if we could get a boatload of capital for Devin Booker because now our team just got a heck of a lot younger. You either run with Devin Booker, Rick, or you trade him for a king's ransom from any other team. What about the San Antonio Spurs have all sorts of picks, and you try to take some of those back, and you just say, well, we're not going to be able to tank out, but we could at least refigure this entire organization.
That was the best move to have made what you did. What you just said. If you're not going to trade, because what you can't do, you can't put KD on the market. he get wind of it and think you can just bring him back and he's gonna say,
Right.
"Oh yeah, sign me up." So now your value, the cards you hold for KD used to be 2 aces of spades. Now it's 2 tens. Like you don't have the same hand anymore because now everybody know he's gonna want to go somewhere.
Right.
And so now your leverage you shouldn't have shopped him without actually moving him somewhere. That Bill is not giving us no trade clause. You got stuck with that today. That's a whole different thing by itself. And so now you're in limbo. You're running it back for a whole season, and come off season, you got to give up pennies on the dollar for KD because now everyone knows he's not sticking around. You chopped the ball, Phoenix. The sun has set on this team for sure.
I know Golden State wanted him, but I think this was the most inadvertent not inadvertent, unintentional, just disintegrating of Kevin Durant's current situation by Golden State by so publicly pursuing him to the point that you had to be like, nah, I don't want to come back. Oh, okay. Well, now everybody knows that you're Matt Ishbia, who was desperate to get you in the door, was desperate to get you out the door for Jimmy Butler, which is not an upgrade. I mean, that's a downgrade if I ever seen one. Rico, your most surprising deal, or if you want to take a page out of Rick's hand, or Rick's book, a deal that didn't happen. Most surprising thing, I guess, that happened. Again, non-Lakers Luka, because that's the most surprising thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I'm a little biased on this because I just cover the team, daily here, but it's the Chicago Bulls trade. I think that trade, when you look at the just kind of the logistics of that deal, I think that the Chicago Bulls might be the most confusing franchise maybe in the NBA right now. And I'm serious because, look, you have 1 foot in a rebuild, you have 1 foot in a youth movement, and I watch this team on a day-to-day basis. They don't pivot into the youth movement. If you go and see, they have the 11th overall pick. He's barely playing. He leads the team in block shots. He can't even get on the floor. When you finally do trade Zach LaVine, he scores 24 points. He goes 10 of 10 from the field. The very next night, he scores 14, has 3 blocks, 5 rebounds, a merit of assists. And it's like, man, you can't move Vooch for a pick, though. And with the Zach LaVine pick, or excuse me, the Zach LaVine trade, going back to it, I'm getting off topic because I'm getting excited. But I'm like, how is it that you trade Zach LaVine, you trade DeMar DeRozan, you trade Alex Caruso, and you don't net a pick back? I don't understand how that happens. These are startable players in the SWBA, and you can't net a pick back, and you only get control of your only first round picks, which is fine. But because you don't have a clear direction and you're a confusing franchise, you almost are going against yourself. And so I just don't understand that. And when we look at some of these other deals, I'm sure, how is it that you get a guy like Reggie Jackson that gets traded for picks, but you can't move a guy that gets double in Vooch for picks? Or Zach LaVine, who's maybe one of your top players out there in the SWBA. And so that's really one of my most confusing, just what are we doing type of trades here. Well, what happened here? I just want to know what happened.
There's got to be some blackmail or some dirt or some dirty secrets being held by Karnisovas in that front office to be able to be like, I'm going to make – let's give them some credit. They got their protected pick that was most definitely not going to convey this season back in the door. They get the security of, no, we're not going to be too good to lose this thing, and we might get Cooper Flag after all. Like, what type of dirt? Because to your point, you get one pick, and it's your pick back for – Alex Caruso, who goes inside, is a $100 million deal. What is right with Oklahoma City, who's their best sixth man off the bench for the best team in the entire league, and you netted Josh Giddey, who's doing I don't even know what at this point. And then they turn around and they give Lonzo Ball, which I think actually was a really good deal, a 2-year, $20 million extension. Like, that's a great deal. So they're oscillating between what the heck is happening and actually, pretty sound investment right there, Rick.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you trade a guy like Zach LaVine and you don't get picks back, that sets your clock back for your franchise like 3 to 5 years, because you let a superstar walk out the door and you don't have a superstar there to replace him. So now you got to go draft another guy again and wait for your ROI and hopes he turn into something. You set your organization up 3 to 5 years. I'm with you. The GM must have something. He must got him by his short and curlies, because I don't know how he still keeps his job at the end of the season with all the blundering he's been doing to these Bulls.
It's odd, Rigo.
it definitely, that I would say was probably the trade where I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? Because it just, if you're going to help other teams, which they did, right? Because De'Aaron Fox, he got his preferred destination.
Yep.
All right. The Kings got a chance to get, some relevance as far as still competing. So you're helping. You can't tell me that you can't net a second round pick. It doesn't even have to be a first. I'm just saying, can you get some additional draft capital other than just the control of your own picks back? And I understand that. You do want to have that control. But aside from that, if you've moved off one of these pieces, this symbolizes maybe a rebuild, and you need as many bites at the apple as possible to go out there and rebuild your team up. That's how teams like, I think, OKC and some of these other teams who have built to the draft, that's what you need. You need draft capital. You need as many shots at these draft picks as possible. You know what I mean? And so that's where I'm just like, what are we doing here?
I think, all right, using draft capital is a great segue into, to me, the most stunning move of the entire weekend, or weekend, is the fact that the Charlotte Hornets were able to get a pick swap and a 2031 first-round pick for Mark Williams. Rob Pelinka, you go from the most genius general manager in the entire league to and Don't Connect, by the way, who you just took in the first round, who's been fantastic for you, by the way, where you had people over the weekend clamoring, saying, well, why didn't Nico Harrison ask for Dalton Connect in that 2031 first for Luka? I mean, Luka gets you more than AD in a 2021 or 2029 pick because we're getting Mark Williams, baby. We're getting the epicenter of our post defense, the guy that can barely block a damn shot on the defensive end. To me, Los Angeles, what are we doing? You have Dalton Connect, you got Austin Reeves, you got the 2031 first. That's value. And you turn that into Mark Williams. Either of you, what are we doing?
You know what makes it comical out of everything? Because what makes this really comical is, what has AD been saying this whole season? Give me a 5 so I can play 4.
Right.
And so they say, we will get you out of here, and then we'll bring a 5.
But are they even bringing in a 5?
It's weird.
Are they bringing in a 5? I get Mark Williams is technically a center. But is he you've got Luka, you've got Austin Reeves, you got LeBron James. 3 guys that either can't or don't play defense. And Rico, you're saying, don't worry, we're anchoring it with Mark Williams. You would have been better off going out and getting Steven Adams. I mean, geez, I'm crow.
Yeah.
When I compare him, Mark Williams, I think he is Jared Vanderbilt. I'm serious. I think he's literally Jared Vanderbilt, and I say that because Jared Vanderbilt has been notoriously injured on that roster. If you go and look at Mark Williams, one of the main issues with him is he is injured. I know this for a fact. I had him on my fantasy basketball team. I had to let him go. He's been gone for weeks at the start of the season, and this is something that's been reoccurring with him. Look, he has a lot of talent out of Duke, but I'm not sure that he's necessarily going to get to that potential. And I get it. I think that you're getting a player that is kind of like a Daniel Gafford, kind of when he's healthy. I can see Luka throwing lobs and things like that to him. But aside from that, are you really going to tell me that Jared Vanderbilt is going to give you that backup center role that you need? Is it Jackson Hayes? I think both of those players have not been reliable. And then you let go, yet again, another player that I guaranteed, I'm calling it now, Dalton Connect is going to be
He's a good piece
in the SWBA, period. He is. He can shoot the basketball, and he can defend at a high level, too. A lot of people didn't think he could do that out of Tennessee. He can flat out defend it, too, as well. So I think that this is a steal really more for Charlotte. And just, I don't understand it with the Lakers. I just don't get it with the Lakers. I don't get it with the Mavs. You went in there, and we just took it.
Let's do this. Guess the number. Guess the number of games that Mark Williams has played. He's 3 years now in the SWBA. Guess the number of games he's played for the Charlotte Hornets.
I'm going to go first because I know Rico probably already knows the answer because he had him in his fantasy. In 3 years total?
Yes, that's 82 games of available games.
82 games a season.
Yeah.
I'm going to say in 3 years he's played 32 games.
Well, okay, it's not that bad. I'm not talking on average. I'm talking total.
Oh, okay. Let's go. 70 games in 3 years.
Okay.
Total.
Rico, do you know the answer because you do have this painful association to him?
Look, I don't know the answer off top. I'm just telling you this season, I got him in my fantasy draft, and
Yeah.
I'm like, man, where you at? I had to make a business decision because he was not playing anytime soon. So for me personally, in 3 seasons,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him 78.
85. In
Oh
3
my
years,
God.
he has barely played a full
one
season. His most was 43 as a rookie. Last year, he played 19. This year, he's played 23. So you're looking at a 50% clip this season for the number of games he's played. And obviously, for his career, well under the available, well under 50% of the games that he's been eligible for. That's what you're getting. You're getting that next to a creaky LeBron James. You're getting that next to a creaky, well, not creaky because he's young enough, but a squeaky Luka Doncic because he can't stay
A
healthy.
shell-shocked.
Yeah.
A shell-shocked Luka Doncic.
The guy whose calf can't get right for the last 5 years, and now you're peaking it off with the injury-plagued third-year center to be your starter. You should have just kept Jackson Hayes. You should have kept the deal and said we're just going to start Jackson Hayes. If you're going to do that, then Mark Williams is not an upgrade over Jackson Hayes. You could have at least packaged a couple seconds. Go get Jonas Valanciunas. Go get, again, Steven Adams, I say, just because Steven Adams at least can bang around for 18 minutes a game and do something for you. He's not OKC Steven Adams, but he's better than that. All right, looking ahead.
I will say this really quick. I will say Mark Williams does have talent.
He does.
Will he reach it? How far? Will he play enough games to qualify to reach it? I have no idea. But let's say hypothetically he stays relatively injury free for the next 3 to 5 years, and he continues to improve incrementally. Lakers could have a steal on their hands. It's possible. There is a realm of possibility that this could be a steal. It's probably not percentages in his favor, but it is a possibility.
I know you're not a Lakers fan, but that's the most Lakers fan take possible. Of just, well, it could work out. Don't worry. It's going to happen. We're pretty good. Don't worry. We got it. We're just going to work. All right. Look ahead. What team... and we'll put the Lakers back into this mix and into this conversation. This season, you're looking at, we need to win a championship. We made these moves. Which team moved themselves closest to a championship? Not they're going to win a championship, but from where they sat previously to where they are now. Rico, what team is closest from, again, we're looking at like biggest jump from you're definitely not winning a championship to this is where we think about you.
Oh, man. Gosh. Out of all the teams that made a trade, if I were to pick one, I mean, I hate to say this, but I think we're going to have to maybe look a little bit more at just the Dallas Mavericks, I would say. I think the short term would probably be the best bet because it's more of a short-term deal, right? When you got Anthony Davis over, it's a short-term deal. Now, I'm not going to say that they're going to win it.
Yeah, we're not saying that.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying it at all because right now OKC is – I don't have anybody else over top of OKC right now. That's just my personal opinion. Just out of all the trades made, I can't go with San Antonio because I think that San Antonio is going to look very great for the next so many seasons. But do I think that De'Aaron Fox comes over and all of a sudden these guys is going to make a deep push like that? No, I don't think so. I don't think that they're going to have that jump. And, they still got to deal with, to Rick's point, they still got to deal with Houston. They still got to deal with Memphis, OKC, all these people at the top. I would just say out of the people that made like the biggest trades, I would say maybe the Mavs. Now, depending on what else they're going to do, we haven't even really touched on this, but there's going to be the buyout market. Okay, so maybe there's something out there that they are going to make a play and go, look, we've traded off Luka. We are going to now go to the buyout market. Let's see if we can get some added pieces to this thing and make a run, much like what we did last season with Luka.
I think you guys are missing a team, and Rico, I thought you was going to touch on it. I thought you was going to mention it. I think you guys are sleeping on a move that I think that was really low key, really really solid by the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay. I think bringing in Kyle Kuzma as that scorer, replacing the often injured as of late Chris Middleton. They're kind of like where they were when they was making their championship run. They got Middleton, you got the guard and Damian Lillard, and then you got Giannis. I like what they've done. You even got head case Kevin Porter Jr., who in spurts can be really good off the bench for you. I like what Milwaukee has done. They was very, very shaky in the beginning. They've kind of settled the waters a little bit, find they're good, they're gripping, and I think this Kyle Kuzma, especially come playoff time, is going to be a really, 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 really good beneficial. I think they made a really big jump forward for playoffs with Kyle Kuzma.
It's going to really depend on what version of Kuzma they get. If they get the Lakers version of Kuzma, which was I'm going to rebound a fair amount, I'm going to have effort on defense, and I'm going to hit threes, then I think Milwaukee, it's a good deal. But if you get the Washington Wizards version of Kyle Kuzma, who doesn't want to do anything except be the number one guy and is equally interested in how big of a sweater he can wear to the game as opposed to what his stat line is going to be, then I think you're not getting a good version of Kyle Kuzma.
When you're only winning 2 games, you start focusing on other things other than basketball. I think you're going to get a real good Kuzma in Milwaukee.
And Milwaukee had to do something, right? They had to do something because we just saw with Luka Doncic. Suddenly, and we saw this, there was a quote from Anthony Edwards in the days that followed, and he said, quote, "I'm scared." Like, you are on a timeline right now with Giannis because you've got the Golden State Warriors who are circling, right? You've got the Los Angeles Lakers who are circling. You've probably got the Dallas Mavericks who are circling. You got the Miami Heat who are building up to get cap space. You've got a whole bunch of teams that are sitting there saying, so when does Giannis become available? When does he get pissed off enough, Rico, that we think we can get him?
You know what?
That's what the Bulls are waiting for, huh, Rico? The Bulls just waiting for Giannis.
Hey, they're waiting for me. At this point, I don't know if they've been waiting on me. Look, this is what I'll say to both of your points, and I think that you make a great point, Rick. Because first of all, the Bucks are in the Eastern Conference. Can we give them that? Because I think that that's going to probably be a much easier path. But I think that what we're not talking about is not what they got, but not what they didn't give up. Like, we're not talking about what they didn't give up because they were maybe linked to giving up a Bobby Portis, which I think would have been a huge mistake here because I think he's better defenders. He's also going to give you some size. They also added Jericho Sims over as well, so they got some added size. I think that was something that they needed, that maybe is maybe something that goes along with Brook Lopez, because you have Brook Lopez, he's working the outside. You have another big in Jericho Sims who's more of a rim runner, so you get that. And we know Bobby Portis is going to be that in-between. Sometimes he can knock down some shots too as well. But they didn't have to give up anything. They kept Pat Covington as well, so they really, I think, win-win in this situation because they do add Kyle Kuzma, like you said, and they also get Patrick Baldwin Jr. coming over as well.
Yes.
It's a guy that can shoot the basketball, but he just really hasn't had an opportunity. He's a veteran, so maybe Coach Doc Rivers does take advantage of that and bringing him over and actually utilizing him.
I thought for some reason they traded Jericho Sims, but I don't see that getting reported. And I don't know. I'm making that up in my head. I just thought I saw his name mentioned. To me, and look, it's almost time for pitchers and catchers, which means it's almost time for baseball season, which means it's almost time for Homer season. So Homer alert here. The team that got closest is the Golden State Warriors, folks. All right. I don't think they're going to win, but if they can find themselves up into a 5 spot, which I think is their ceiling, they're not getting above 4. But like right now, if you look at the standings in the Western Conference, you've got the Lakers right now at 29-19 at number 5. The Warriors are currently sitting at 11th at 25-25, 5 games back. And I think that the Warriors are talking themselves into the Jimmy Butler chaos because they need a second guy. And if you get a locked-in Jimmy Butler for a round in the playoffs, you can win a series, right? You could win an opening round depending on who you get in a matchup. And of all the teams that made deals, yes, the Lakers got a star. There's huge question marks on their defense. Yes, the Mavericks got an all-SWBA center, probably an all-defensive center, but there's major question marks about your durability. And there's question marks about Jimmy Butler. But from where you were to where you are now, Golden State went from a team that you're kind of thinking, do we just maybe come April we just bottom out and try to get as best of odds we can get to be getting into the top 4 and maybe get a shot at Cooper Flag, to suddenly you're thinking, hey, maybe we get 6 seed and we get Houston. Like, Houston hasn't been here before. We've got the Dogs to go up against him. Maybe we get a 7 seed and we get the rivalry matchup with the Grizzlies. That, to me, is where Golden State's peak is. And I think by getting Jimmy Butler, they got themselves into the conversation where suddenly that's an exciting series to think about if you're Golden State, as opposed to before where it's like, well, this will be done in 5. And that'll be a fun season, and then we got absolutely nothing out of this, and it's back to the drawing board next season. Like, that, to me, is where Golden State moved the furthest. The other teams were either already there or moving up there. A lot of picks got moved around, so I want to think of this in the SimWorld U realm. So going now to like the bottom feeders, right? The Charlotte Hornets, who get some first round picks, although they already had some. What team positioned themselves best to be eligible for the Lamarian Sherwood? I said Cooper Flag, but we got another year before that happens. But the Lamarian Sherwood, the Jamison Johnsons, the Cooper Kingy Crosses of the world, Rick. What team best positioned themselves to try to be in a spot to get one of those guys?
I think you just mentioned the Charlotte Hornets. And there's a team who already, unlike a lot of these bottom feeder teams, there's a team who already has a superstar in LaMelo Ball. Mm-hmm. They need someone to pair him with for 2 reasons. 1, so you can start winning, and 2, so you can keep him there so he don't want to leave. Mm-hmm. A Jamison Johnson would be perfect. Sherwood would be good as well. But you put a Jamison Johnson type, someone who can get off the glass, who Melo can throw it down to, don't have to take all the 27 shots and chuck it, like Marsh has pointed out. You give him somebody a solid scoring option on the block. Now you cooking with something. Now all you need to surround yourself with some shooters on the outside. Now you got a chance to make some noise, and you can get shooters. You can find them anywhere, right? So I think the Hornets, they're in pole, put themselves in better pole position to get a really good draft pick that's going to help their team tremendously in the coming future, with them already having a star already on the team.
And they added Don't Connect. So you're looking at it, you say we got LaMelo Ball, we got Brandon Miller, we got Don't Connect. What we need is a 4 or a 5. That's the shoot I was talking about. Right, you need a 4 or a 5. So I feel like they're well positioned where you get into the top 5, which they should be able to get to, and then you've got your pick of, if you get up to 1, you're great. But Lamarian Sherwood, Jamison Johnson, Donta Walker, I think, is in the running to be your pick there. You slot him in at the number 4
Tyson,
spot,
and you can go later and get Tyson later on down the line.
Yeah. Rick, who's best positioned, and again, it doesn't have to be for the number 1 pick, but rather who best positioned themselves to kind of get the guy that they want come draft season?
Rico?
Sorry, I said Rick. I meant Rico.
So for me, I think that it's going to be Washington. I thought you were talking to me. I was like, for me,
the names are too similar.
I think for me it's going to be Washington, man. That's the team that I think is really I'm going to look for, because they have made some deals where they got some additional draft capital as well, and I like them. I think that they can really seriously do some damage here with this draft capital, and I think it doesn't necessarily have to be one of the top guys like CKC or something like that. What if they get a player like a Jalen Snow or somebody like that? I'm just throwing names out there. Like, with the young core that they have, I don't think that there's a miss for them. Let me just say that. It's not a miss for them, and they actually got some more draft capital in making this deal from Milwaukee and stuff like that. So they got some more.
Yeah, all right. And if you're Washington, you're doing this. You got your fingers crossed, all the fans, the fan base, because you want this to land right. To your point, I like Jalen Snow. I say their talent is, to your point, their talent is not great. So any pick in the top 10 is going to work wonders for them. But CKC gonna feed families. CKC in DC feeds families, okay? So we can have a good snack. We can have an excellent meal. But we trying to feed families. And CKC will feed families in that area.
He'll also feed a general manager contract for the next decade.
See? Which is helping him feed his family. Right. It's feeding families. It's going to feed a lot of families.
Feeding caviar and other delicacies that are only afforded that level. I'm going deep cut, and I think the San Antonio Spurs actually set themselves up best for the draft, because in the trade that got them De'Aaron Fox, they somehow were not required to give up Atlanta Hawks' first-round pick, which I believe is unprotected, and currently sits with the 9th best odds, a team that just gave up DeAndre Hunter to the Cavaliers, who is without Jalen Johnson and have been cratering since then. They're 1-9 in their last 10 games. They're 23-28. Portland is playing better basketball and could very well jump over them. The San Antonio Spurs, who are these are the teams above, like further along than Atlanta. San Antonio, Orlando, Detroit, Golden State, Phoenix, and Sacramento. All those teams, and then we get into just a mass of people around that mark. All those teams are trying to win, right? Detroit wants to get into the playoffs. They want to have a good season. San Antonio just got a heck of a lot better. Orlando will start figuring things out again once their offense comes back to an equilibrium now that they're all healthy. The teams below them, Philadelphia, they want to win some basketball games. You're not chasing down the number 1 spot if you're Atlanta, but there's a real chance that Atlanta pick gets better and better. And San Antonio, who has a second-year defensive player of the year, who's probably going to be the next Luka Doncic in terms of 5 all first-team SWBA nominations through his first 6-7 years in the league, and De'Aaron Fox, and now you got a chance to pick. Let's say you're picking number 8. That's the realm of Jalen Snow. Trey Turner could fall to you right there. Donta Walker could be falling in. If you're San Antonio, to me, that is, you are licking your chops over the fact that you need another star, and you're probably going to get one in the upcoming draft, thanks to that Atlanta pick.
Yeah, I mean, they got 3 bites at the apple. I think I'm looking at it right now. You're right. There's no protections on that Atlanta pick here in 2025. They got another pick that's slated there that's, I think, outright theirs. And then they also have a round 2 as well. So, look, they just got De'Aaron Fox, and I just think that this team can get really scary in a hurry, which is why I didn't pick them as the team that was going to make a major jump this year.
Right.
But next year, if you were to ask me that, it's probably going to be the San Antonio Spurs.
I mean, think about it.
I like Castle a lot too, and they got a Castle. I like Castle a lot.
What if you're a team, right? Like, let's say you're Washington, right? And we've already seen the links. Cooper King Cross says he wants to play in Washington. Washington has the best odds, worst odds, whatever you want to call it, for the number 1 pick. Let's say they don't get it, and they fall back to number, let's call it 4 or 5, right? So you're outside of the realm of Cooper King Cross, and you can't quite trade up. Well, what if San Antonio comes in, and I don't have all of their picks in front of me, but what if you say, well, we'll give you this Atlanta pick. We will give, because they don't want to pick at 9, they gave Atlanta and 2 or 3 of the other assets that they have in their back pocket, like the 2030 swap right for Minnesota. And we say, we'll give you a couple firsts to move up 4 or 5 spots because you're not getting the guy you want. So we will give you a chance to move back, Rick, give you 2 extra picks, and we get to get a guy that we really want at like number 5 instead of number 9.
I think if you're Washington, that's the deal you have to take. You're all a bust on CKC.
Right.
We're all a bust on CKC. If we don't get our guy CKC, then we're gonna just get numerous guys. And like Rico said, we're gonna just take a bunch of bites at the apple and just see if we can turn somebody over into something really, really solid for us. Right. You're all a bust on CKC, regardless of what the draft experts say, regardless of how it falls. You are all a bust on CKC. We either feeding families or we famishing families. One or the other. We're either feeding or famishing families. There's no in between if you're Washington Wizards right now.
The king has to go there. All right. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up here? Anything that we didn't touch on that needs to be brought up from either of you?
I'll just say this about the Golden State deal. I'm really curious to see what type of Jimmy Butler we get. I'm serious because he's got the $21 million extension. All right, so he ain't got to worry about that. Now, you have somebody that's traded for you, and Golden State, really, they didn't give up too much of their championship DNA. That's one of the things that I think I talked about on my show is just, were you willing to give up some of your championship DNA? They gave up Andrew Wiggins, right? And then, so now, you still got Kevon Looney. He's been to the top of the mountain with you. You still got Gary Payton II. He's been to the top of the mountain with you. You have Steph Curry. We know what he can do. You have Draymond Green as well. We know Steph Curry, Steve Curry has also taken you there as well. So you haven't lost a whole bunch. You still got draft capital. And personally, I think that this is maybe almost a leap year for the Golden State Warriors. I think that the better they get this year, I think that they are still in place where they could use maybe some draft capital. Maybe if they have, I don't think they're going to have expiring contracts, but maybe they have some players that they can move off of. And maybe they can get one more piece to make one more big push with this next year or so.
And
Rick,
I saved my Jimmy Butler take to the end, to this moment right here. He is the winner of the draft by far. He managed to break out of jail in Miami. And then not only break out of jail in Miami, he landed on his feet with $100 million deal and straight swindled of the Golden State Warriors. He is, my friends, he is Raymond Reddington. He is Raymond Reddington. If you guys have not seen the Blacklist, that's the reference. He is Raymond. He's broken out of one jail and then found himself in paradise with $100 million deal, exactly the way he wanted. Jimmy Butler, you and your agent, you guys are the real MVP. Y'all won this trading deadline by far.
player empowerment has never been more inflappable than it is right now, with Jimmy Butler being a brat and still making an extra $69, I think, $million on the back
crazy.
end. All right, that's our recap. Fellas, appreciate you hopping on. We will, as we get closer to postseason, we'll do that a little bit more and obviously come back around for the draft. But appreciate y'all jumping on for a little emergency trade deadline reaction. We'll get both of you guys back onto something in the near future. I'll see Rick more than I probably need to. Rico, we'll keep you rolling. All right, fellas, appreciate you. We'll talk soon.